And sorry, I didn't finish that. As I was jumping to Kigali, I was alluding to the fact that when it comes to some of the ICT projects, then you look at various parameters. How long will this technology last? That would be part of what you're looking in terms of the cost and the time. And the whole of Section 23, when you have time, look at Section 23. It has all the parameters that we look at to determine how long this project should take. So I was just bringing those answers into the provisions of the law.
Now we can take another round of questions on this side.
I'll start with those who have not said anything. Yeah, there are two ladies here, and then we come over this side. Then we come there. So we'll take five. So just try to be short and precise. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, Christelle Kwamba is my name. I just wanted to build up from what has been asked and answered before, especially on the issue of extension of time. That is the amendment number 16. Now, to tighten up that, what I would say, and I agree with DG's response, and also that you have accepted that there is need for that discretion, that provision doesn't give too much discretion, but you are using mandatory terms in that amendment, because you're saying provided that the committee shall, on the recommendation of the directorate, grant an extension of time when the extension is justified. I would suggest that we use discretionary may, just so that we give the committee, again, another layer of discretion to look at it, because the recommendation is just an advice or a guidance. On the issue of direct procurement, I think from what you, Nila, what you had explained, is that you intend to do away with 38B on the issue of availability of limited number of private parties. I was going to suggest that maybe we borrow from the Procurement Act. One of the reasons why direct procurement is used is where there is usually a particular supplier contractor. That is the terms that are used under the Procurement Act. And I would say instead of doing away completely with that B, then it should be that the works and services are only available from a particular private party, so that it gives us discretion that, especially with new technologies, I think that is something that can be looked at, so that we don't do away completely with that. And what, again, something I would be interested in, and probably that will be discussed tomorrow, is the fact that we want to divorce completely public-private partnerships from the Procurement Act, and a committee will be looking at projects and determining which ones are suitable for the conventional procurement and PPP. I would be interested to know how then the committee determines what is actually suitable for the procurement and the PPP. I think that is something I would want to hear from. I know that that is a provision under the project management regulations, but if it can be answered now, it's fine. If not, I would still want to hear about that tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Wadoni Ngaruya. I'm representing the Architectural Association of Kenya. Most of the comments I would have wanted to raise have been brought forward, but what I keep missing, or what you also keep being elusive about, if I've gotten it right, is the participation of the civil society. The same comments the people from NGOs have brought forward, because when you look at the petitions and all the interactions and provisions within the PPPs between the government and the private private party that is hoping to be part of the project. But all these major projects are public interest projects. They are being developed on land that is public property. So in between all these approvals, where does the civil society come in? Even when, as he asked before, Why do we approve a feasibility study before publishing it? Like, why do you have to approve it before publishing it for public to see and to know what's going on for disclosure? And allow people to actually give their comments, because I will not come and tell you maybe Nairobi Expressway wouldn't have been the priority for the people of Nairobi, but I want this to happen, and probably there is someone who is working with the concessions. There are people backing these things to go forward. So where does the civil society come in through this process? Where in the petitions can a third party who is not the procuring agent or the private practitioner, where do they come in? Where do they come in to present their grievance and weigh in on the decision to proceed with this project? I think that covered both of these. So on the petitions bit, most of the cases, especially within the built and natural environment, have been now being bringing in experts. If it's and that comes speaks into the alternative dispute resolution within the built environment. You leave it to a lawyer.
I'm going to take very quick and then regulations. The question of the 30 years, I've just done ChatGPT here. I'm seeing that the practice all over the world, we even have those ones going on for 99 years. So why? When you say we retain 30, we need to be given the reason. Are we intimidated into retaining it because we want to be politically correct, or what is the basis? Because the longer it is, the cheaper may be, and at the same time you might require space where in such a litigious country like Kenya here, there are those people who you are opening room for litigations. That is my first thing. Then number two, if I were to spin the corner a bit, to flip it, there is a question of corruption on this side, on one side of the coin, where people are seeing public officers as people who are just out there looking for corruption. But let us flip the coin a bit. There are also people who are also fought for other interests. They are vested interests, JKIA, they are very real. There are people who have heavily invested there and are milking that public property there. They are there. These are the people who will sponsor people to go to court and to demonstrate to protect their interests. What justification is there for the employees of Kenya Airports Authority to decide that this thing must remain, that another investor should not come in? I was questioning that because we saw the employees of Kenya Airports Authority saying, because Kenya Airports Authority has overemployed, it is an employment bill. So they know when another person comes in, another interested party investor comes in, who will insist on value for money, some of them will go. So I'm just asking, within the body of law, I know we have the Bill of Rights, we have things to do with public participation, we have all that. Is there something which can be put there that can address the question of vested interest? Because in Kenya, we are not moving. They come and then they take the civil society, they take other parties, and they go to court, and we drag on. Everything is dragging on. Everything is dragging on. What can we put in the body of this law that we're doing to take care of that? That is what I'm asking. So that we are not. I'm told there was a refinery, just as an example. This is outside base. A refinery is to be put up by Dangote. Already there are people in court. So is there anything? I'm not a lawyer, I've never been to a law school. But is there something which can be put in the body of this law we're doing that can help a way out so that there is a mechanism? If at all we know that your protestations are out of some vested interests, the body of this law can address that. This is my concern, because we are not moving. These litigations upon litigations. At least I've learned one word. You are obstructionist. How to deal with obstructionist.
Thank you very much. My name is Maureen Yamai
from Tana Indus River Development Authority. There's this regulation 62 on government support measures. Can that government support measure be part of regulation 9, the feasibility study? Can it be part of the list? It's not a small issue. I think when you're preparing feasibility studies, you need to be aware that the element of government support measure, if any, needs to be in that feasibility study. Thank you.
Thank you for being accorded the opportunity. And this again again. I'm just responding in synopsis, specifically to Madam Faye. Yeah, specifically. Yeah. The issue the entire document, almost 3/4, there's a lot of emphasis on procurement. And a procurement practitioner has not been captured in the document. Procurement practitioners, according to the Act, is a member of the body, Kenya Institute of Supplies Management. Is the only one mandated to accord legal advice, on matters pertaining to procurement. So it is imperative and pertinent that it shall be captured in the document. A practitioner. Because a lawyer cannot purport to talk to the issue pertaining to procurement when it's not a member of KISI. In the event of litigation or in any tribunal or in any legal process, the verdict rests entirely from the profession who is a member of KISI. But it's not captured, just to express it. That's my take. I rest my matter.
So, question for to Faith. That was very specific to you. I'm not going to touch it. But for clarity, which one were you referring to that mentioned procurement practitioners? Which one? Section 44. So with the ability, Kelly. So, see, each and every field has its own law, isn't it? With humility, I'm just trying to help us not do this easily. Yeah? When you go to matters energy, there is Energy Act, isn't it? When it comes to matters Public Procurement and Disposal Act, there is PADA. When it comes to PPP, there is PPP law. And so, we are here to discuss PPP law, not Public Procurement and Disposal. I know there are those sections on PADA which speaks to how PADA procurement and the specialist that needs to be on board. I can also tell you authoritatively here, there are KISI practitioners, if I tell them matters PPP, that is not I've encountered them. I've worked in this field for nearly 20 years. PPP is also a specialized field on its own. So I'll allow Faith to respond as you have directed it to Faith. Maureen Nyamai, you had that there could be a linkage between feasibility, but let's also appreciate the way I view you from a risk perspective could be different the way you view yourself, isn't it? The way other countries or investors from other jurisdictions view our country and by so analyze our country's risk will be different from our analyzed risk. So I may assess myself through a feasibility and say the only KSM that I require is A, B, C. When you go to the market, they'll tell you your economy is very risky. And therefore, besides ABC, I will require another layer of protection. And that calls for another GSM instruments. So we may profile them out during feasibility, and I don't think it's provided at feasibility whatever is required for government support, so that we also make application to the CS. I believe it should be somewhere, but you will give that clarity. But then that does not mean when you get now a bidder, when you're discussing, it does not mean that's the end. There are certain instruments that may be required over and above, but that should be negotiated and agreed. So, Clement, mambo ya corruption, but then we are our own enemy. We are our own. Sio ni kweli? Nani amekataa? Nani amekataa? We are our own. Miradi za maendeleo zinakuja na sisi ndio tunafanya nini? Labda tunaenda kuambia wewe bwana, hiki ndio tunataka, manake ukininio pale mnofu yangu itafanya nini? Itapotea. So wewe ukifanya hivi kitu ni mbaya, upige kelele. And it's high time we grow out of this. How we will do it? Tumetupatia changamoto. How we will do it? We need to think through as a country. We need to think through as citizens of the country. Matters of corruption is here, and it's never a one-sided story. And I agree with you. It's never a public sector story. For this thing to happen, it takes two to tango. Therefore, similarly to the law enforcement institutions, I cannot really speak much. We've only put so much mechanisms to be safeguard, as I said in the morning. In PPP, there are so many layers of checks. You start feasibility study, it gives you a reference. Kama ulikuwa umeweka vitu zako pale ndani, by the time private sector atakuwa anafanya, because the private sector will also do its designs, come up with a bid and tell you this is my bid. So there will be different. Kama kuna vitu ambazo umeficha pale ndani. Alafu wale ambao wanapatiana pesa kama debt, they'll also go deep in the project, because they have to be very comfortable on what the cost of the project is and the revenues that come in. So serikali imepiga msasa, yule mwekezaji amekuja akapiga msasa akasema hii ni sawa na hii na si. Hata wengine wenye benki kwa